If you're starting this video because you feel that this new year you want to change, stay. And if you're tired of making resolutions you never keep, stay even more. But before we go on, subscribe. Not out of obligation, but because here you're going to find content that tells you the truth, not what looks pretty on social media. Here we talk clearly. Here we talk about what people live but don't say. Now yes, let's talk about New Year for real. Without recycled motivational phrases. Without empty promises. Without that new year, new life that we all say but nobody truly feels. Because you and I know something. Most people start the year with fear, not with motivation. But nobody admits it. Everyone talks about resolutions, but very few admit what really happens in their mind when January arrives. That you're exhausted. That you're dragging things from the previous year. That you're sick of repeating the same goals. And that a part of you already knows you might not keep them this year either. But you force yourself to start with a good face because it's what you're supposed to do, because everyone does it. That's the problem. New Year's resolutions have become social pressure, not a personal decision. The first thing you need to understand is this. Most resolutions fail because they don't come from you. They come from comparison. They come from the fear of being left behind. They come from the need to feel like you're doing something, even when you're not really ready to change. Psychologically, New Year triggers a curious mechanism. The so-called fresh start effect. Your brain believes that just because it's a special date you're going to be a different person. But it doesn't work like that. You are not different because the calendar changes. You are different when you change. When you make real decisions. When you commit to yourself regardless of the date. That's why so many people feel guilty at the end of January. Because they realize they're still the same person. With the same habits. With the same insecurities. With the same excuses. And they think that means failure. But it's not failure. It's lack of mental preparation. Nobody teaches you how to prepare for real change. Everybody just tells you, you have to change. But nobody explains that to change, you first have to understand yourself. And here comes an uncomfortable truth. Many of your New Year's resolutions don't come true because they're not even yours. They're a list you copy from what you see in others. Losing weight, improving your life, reading more, working out more, earning more money, traveling. Being more disciplined. Did that really come from you? Or did it just sound like what you're supposed to do? I know. It hurts to admit it. But it's necessary if you want real change this year. Let's talk clearly. If you start the year trying to be someone you're not, you're going to fail. If you make resolutions so others will think well of you, you're going to fail. If you force yourself to change out of pressure, you're going to fail. And not because you're lazy. Not because you're worthless. Not because you lack discipline. But because you're fighting against your own identity. And nobody wins that battle. Psychology is clear. Before you change your habits, you have to change your narrative. The way you talk to yourself. The way you see yourself. The way you treat yourself. If you keep believing you're not enough, that you're useless, that you're a mess, that you never finish what you start, no resolution will survive. Because you'll act from that identity. This new year, if you really want to start differently, you have to be brutally honest with yourself. You have to admit what your fears are. What your limits are. What your patterns are. What things you repeat even though they destroy you. What things you want but don't dare to say. And what things you've been carrying for years that you still haven't resolved. Many people start the year with excitement. You maybe don't. And that's okay. There are people who start the year tired, burned out, with an empty soul, with no energy. And there is nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is pretending you're okay. Because when you pretend, when you force yourself to get motivated, you break. Because you're not taking care of what's really happening inside you. That's why I want to tell you something almost nobody says. You don't need to be motivated to start the year well. You need to be honest with yourself. That does change everything. Let's get into what really matters. What makes a resolution work? The most honest answer is this. It works when it's in agreement with yourself, not with the calendar. It works when you do it for you, not to look good. It works when you're clear on the why, not just the how. It works when it's aligned with your identity, not with your expectations. It works when it comes from a real internal need, not from a trend. And above all, it works when you have patience. Because your brain doesn't change in January just because. It changes when you repeat small choices every day, even when you can't be bothered, even when you're tired, even when you half fail. This year, maybe you don't need 10 resolutions. Maybe you only need one. One that's real. One that actually makes sense to you. One you can sustain. One that moves you even when you're broken. One that doesn't sound pretty but true. For example, maybe your New Year's resolution isn't going to the gym. Maybe it's learning to respect yourself. Maybe it's not reading more books. Maybe it's stopping punishing yourself for not being perfect. Maybe it's not becoming a millionaire. Maybe it's getting out of survival mode. Maybe it's not changing your body. Maybe it's changing the way you speak to yourself. What I want you to understand is simple but deep. A real resolution is not a goal. It's a decision. An inner decision. A decision that belongs to you. A decision that doesn't reset every year. A decision that starts when you decide to start, not when January begins. If this new year you feel tired, insecure, lost, or even disappointed in yourself, I want you to remember something. The day you make a resolution thinking about you, not about others, that's the day your real new year begins. And that's what we're going to build here, step by step. We're still talking about New Year, but now I want us to do something almost nobody does. Stop looking at the list of resolutions and start looking at who you are when you make that list. Because here comes an uncomfortable truth. You can't build a different New Year with the same mindset that made you fail the last one. Most people focus on what they're going to do. But almost nobody focuses on who they need to be in order to do it. And that's the mistake that sabotages everything. Let's make it clear. You don't have a goals problem. You don't have a willpower problem. You don't have a discipline problem. Your problem is the identity you've been carrying for years. The perception you have of yourself. The story you repeat to yourself over and over. If you believe you're someone who always fails, you're going to fail even with the best strategy. If you believe you never finish anything, you're going to quit even when you're making progress. If you believe you're not capable, you're going to stop trying even when you actually can. If you've been telling yourself for years that you're a disaster, your mind will work to prove it. Psychology calls this internal coherence. You will always act in alignment with what you believe about yourself. So this new year, if you want something to finally change, don't start by making resolutions. Start by questioning who you think you are. Many people start the year saying, "This year for sure." But inside they're thinking, "Probably not." And that's where you already lose. Because your mind decided before you even tried. Understand this without filters. A resolution doesn't work unless it's backed by an identity strong enough to sustain it. And here is where the real work begins. The work nobody does because it's not pretty, not quick, not glamorous. The work of looking inward. You can't expect discipline if you treat yourself with contempt. You can't expect consistency if every time you fail you insult yourself in your head. You can't expect motivation if you sleep badly, don't take care of yourself, or are emotionally drained. You can't expect change when you don't even listen to yourself. This new year, if you want resolutions that actually matter, you need to start by understanding your current state. And that requires honesty, not enthusiasm. Ask yourself simple but real questions. How did I end the year? Am I tired? Am I disappointed? Am I motivated? Am I lost? Am I emotionally stable? Do I have the energy to start something new? Am I making this resolution for me or because of outside pressure? Do I really know why I want to change this? If you can't answer these questions, any resolution you make is headed straight toward failure. Not because of bad luck, but because it's not built on a solid foundation. A real resolution can only stand when you know who you are, the good and the bad. When you know your limits, when you understand your patterns, when you know your wounds, and when you accept that many things you want to achieve require more than desire, they require healing. Here's another truth that hurts but saves lives. You can't build discipline when you're emotionally broken. You can't build habits when you're in survival mode. You can't focus when your mind is full of noise. You can't move forward if you're still processing the previous year. Some people start the year with energy. You maybe don't. And that's okay. Because starting tired doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The difference is in how you respond to that tiredness. Whether you keep demanding from yourself as if nothing is happening, or whether you choose to listen to yourself and start with the basics. And when I say basics, I mean this. Before making big resolutions, make sure you can sustain small decisions. If you start the year saying you're going to change your whole life, you're going to fail. Because you can't change everything. You change something. And that something opens the door to everything else. The reason so many resolutions are abandoned before January 20th isn't a lack of willpower. It's a lack of emotional structure. Discipline is not built in January. It's built in your everyday life. In the small choices you make. In the conversations you have with yourself. In what you do when no one is watching. Most people believe New Year will give them discipline. But discipline doesn't come with the date. It comes with decisions. That's why I want you to do this. Think about the resolution you want for this year. The one you truly feel. The one that weighs on you. The one that matters. The one you know you need. And now ask yourself, am I today the person capable of sustaining that resolution? If the answer is no, don't panic. It simply means your real first resolution isn't that final goal. Your real first resolution is to become the person capable of achieving it. And that is real change. Many people get lost because they think failing a resolution means failing themselves. But the truth is different. Sometimes you fail because you chose a goal meant for a version of you that doesn't exist yet. And that's okay. It's normal. You're not late. You're not broken. You're not less than anyone else. You're simply in a different stage of the process. Let's make it clearer. If you want to be disciplined but you've been functioning from anxiety for years, your real resolution is not be disciplined. Your real resolution is regulating your emotions, sleeping better, organizing your mind, taking care of your body, setting boundaries. If you want to eat better but you use food to calm stress, your resolution isn't eat healthy. Your resolution is managing your anxiety, identifying your triggers, healing your relationship with food. If you want to start exercising but you feel empty, unmotivated, drained, your resolution isn't going to the gym. Your resolution is recovering your mental vitality first. If you want to earn more money but you're burned out, exhausted, overloaded, your resolution isn't working more. Your resolution is understanding why you're burned out, organizing your life, and resetting your priorities. Do you see where I'm going? Real resolutions aren't goals. They're roots. Internal changes that support every other change. If this new year you make resolutions from truth, not pressure, you don't need motivation. You need clarity. And clarity comes when you stop telling yourself stories that aren't yours. When you stop copying other people's goals. When you stop pretending to be someone you're not. When you accept that changing inside matters more than showing change on the outside. This year, instead of making a list of 10 resolutions, I want you to choose just one, but make it honest. One you can sustain when you're tired. One you can sustain when you're sad. One you can sustain when life turns against you. One that doesn't depend on motivation. Because the true purpose of the new year isn't reinventing yourself. It's committing to yourself for real. I don't want you to end January exhausted. I want you to end the year proud. And that starts now. Let's keep talking about New Year, but now I want you to understand something deeper. You can't start a new year pretending everything resets just because the date changed. It doesn't. Your mind doesn't reset. Your habits don't reset. Your wounds don't reset. Your thinking patterns don't reset. The truth is simple. January does not erase anything you haven't faced. That's why so many people start the year already feeling defeated. Because what you didn't resolve in December follows you into January. And what you avoided last year becomes even heavier this year. So let me be direct. Before focusing on new goals, you need to focus on the old patterns you still haven't broken. People think a new year gives them a new life. But a new year only gives you a new chance, and you still decide what you do with it. Most resolutions fail not because the goal is hard, but because you are still carrying the same emotional weight from before. You can't start fresh if you're mentally full. And whether you admit it or not, you feel it. That silent tiredness, that mental heaviness, that pressure of I have to change, while knowing you don't have the energy to change anything. That's why you must hear this clearly. A new year won't fix what you refuse to face. You can buy a new planner, make a new list, start a new routine. But none of that works if internally you feel overwhelmed, insecure, anxious, empty, or burned out. That's why your resolutions collapse. Not because you're weak, but because you are emotionally saturated. Let's talk straight. When your mind is overloaded, your brain literally shuts down. Your ability to organize, stay consistent, make decisions, or build habits decreases. That's not laziness, it's biology. So if you want this new year to be different, you need to stop demanding more from a mind that is already exhausted. Start by doing the basic work people avoid. Acknowledge what you feel. Acknowledge what you've been carrying. Acknowledge what is draining you. Because change does not come from forcing yourself. It comes from understanding yourself. You're not going to build discipline from emotional chaos. You're not going to build focus while living in internal noise. You're not going to build consistency while still healing from last year. Some people begin the year full of energy. You might not. And that's okay. Starting tired doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The real difference is not whether you start tired or motivated, but whether you face your fatigue honestly or ignore it to act as if everything is fine. Pretending drains you. Honesty frees you. And that honesty leads to something crucial. Before you make big resolutions, make sure you can sustain small decisions. People want to change their entire life in one January. And that's why they fail. Life doesn't change all at once. Life changes one habit, one thought, one decision at a time. And that single decision, repeated, becomes identity. The reason most people abandon their resolutions before January 20th is not a lack of discipline. It's a lack of emotional structure. Discipline isn't something you suddenly wake up with on January 1st. It's something you build slowly with boring routines and uncomfortable honesty. Discipline grows in the choices you make when no one is watching, the way you speak to yourself when you fail, the way you act on days you don't feel motivated, the way you return after breaking your routine. New Year is not magical. Discipline isn't tied to the calendar. It's tied to your decisions. So I want you to reflect on your main resolution for this year. The real one. The one that feels heavy. The one you've avoided. The one that matters. And then ask yourself honestly, am I today the person capable of sustaining this? If the answer is no, don't panic. It simply means this. Your real first resolution is not the goal. Your real first resolution is to become the person who can achieve it. And that is the root of real change. Most people think failing a resolution means failing themselves. But the truth is different. Sometimes you fail because you set a goal meant for a version of you that hasn't been built yet. And that's not a problem. It's part of the process. You're not late. You're not broken. You're not behind everyone else. You're becoming. Let's make it even clearer. If you want discipline but have lived in anxiety for years, your real resolution is not be disciplined. Your real resolution is regulate your emotions, sleep better, organize your inner world, take care of your body, set boundaries. If you want to eat better but food has been your emotional refuge, your resolution is not eat healthy. It's heal your relationship with stress, identify your triggers, build emotional safety. If you want to work out but feel mentally drained, your resolution is not go to the gym. It's recover your mental energy first. If you want more money but you're burned out, your resolution is not work harder. It's understand your burnout, rebalance your life, fix the internal chaos you've been ignoring. This is the core truth. Real resolutions are not goals. They're roots. Internal changes that sustain every external change. If this new year you make resolutions based on truth, not pressure, you won't need motivation. You'll have clarity. And clarity comes when you stop copying other people's goals, stop pretending to be someone you're not, stop chasing an image, and start honoring what you actually need. So this year, instead of making a list of 10 goals, choose one. But choose one that's real. One you can sustain on tired days. One you can sustain on sad days. One you can sustain when life hits hard. One that does not depend on motivation. Because the real purpose of a new year is not reinvention. It's commitment, real commitment, to yourself. I don't want you to end January exhausted. I want you to end the year proud. And that starts now. Let's keep talking about New Year's resolutions, but now I want to address something most people ignore. The emotional weight you carry when a new year begins. It's easy to say new year, new life, but nobody talks about the invisible emotional exhaustion you've been holding for months. And if you start the year emotionally drained, I'll tell you this clearly. Any resolution you make is going to feel impossible. People think resolutions fail because they're hard. But the truth is they fail because you are already overloaded. You're stressed. You're anxious. You're carrying unresolved problems. You're carrying expectations, disappointments, pressure, and mental fatigue. And even if you don't say it out loud, you feel it. You feel the lack of energy. You feel the mental heaviness. You feel the struggle to get excited. You start the year already tired of starting over. So let me tell you something with complete honesty. You cannot build a new year on a mind and body that are still stuck in the previous one. Most people don't need more goals. They need mental rest. They need to sort their inner world. They need to stop pretending they're okay. They need to empty out before filling up again. But that doesn't sound pretty on social media, so nobody says it. And here's a serious truth. When you're emotionally exhausted, your brain shuts down. Literally. Your ability to make decisions, to maintain habits, to focus, to stay consistent, all of that weakens. Not because you're weak. Not because you're lazy. But because your nervous system is burned out. This year, understand this. You cannot demand productivity from yourself when you're mentally broken. If you ended December drained, January won't magically fix that. The calendar doesn't heal what you refuse to face. Sometimes your real New Year resolution is not to change your life. It's to recover from your life. And nobody tells you that because we live in a society obsessed with doing more. But this is what happens when you start the year from exhaustion. You break in silence. You try to push yourself. You try to motivate yourself. You try to force routines. You try to act strong. And by the second week of January, you collapse. Mentally, emotionally, or physically. Then comes frustration. Then guilt. Then self-criticism. Then that voice that says, I failed again. But you didn't fail. You were simply operating from a place that couldn't support what you were demanding. So hear this. A New Year resolution does not work if it's built on top of emotional exhaustion. It works when it's built on clarity. And clarity begins with one question. How much mental space do I actually have for change right now? Not how much you want to change, but how much you can realistically sustain. Wanting change is easy. Sustaining change is what matters. And your ability to sustain change depends on your emotional strength, not your motivation, not your excitement, not your planner. Emotional strength comes from sleeping well, setting boundaries, ordering your space, calming your environment, removing what drains you, healing what hurt you, giving your mind real rest. Because you cannot build discipline out of exhaustion. You cannot build habits on top of stress. You cannot build consistency while drowning internally. You cannot move forward when you haven't recovered from what pushed you down. And here's another truth. To achieve your resolutions, you often have to let go of people, habits, and expectations that work against you. You don't fail only because of your actions. You fail because of what surrounds you. If you want to change but you're surrounded by people who refuse to grow, you're going to struggle. If you want discipline but your environment is full of distraction, you're going to fail. If you want new habits but you live in the same chaos that created your old ones, you're going to repeat the cycle. If you want consistency but your relationships are unstable, your mind will be unstable too. It's not personal. It's psychological. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your motivation does. So one of the most powerful resolutions you can make is asking yourself, who adds to my goals and who drains them? Who supports me and who stops my progress? Who respects my boundaries and who ignores them? Who inspires me and who destroys my energy? Who should stay and who should go? This kind of honesty gives you real results. Let me tell you something clearly. You cannot improve your life while staying connected to what destroys you. And now let's talk about something else that ruins resolutions. Self-pressure. Some people start the year with unrealistic goals that make them feel guilty from day one. They expect themselves to transform their entire life in 1 week. To build 10 habits at once. To rewrite their identity overnight. That's not growth. That's self-punishment disguised as ambition. This year, be realistic with yourself. Not from mediocrity but from maturity. Real change is not pretty. It's not exciting. It's not fast. It's repetitive. It's uncomfortable. It's slow. But it works. This year, stop chasing fast change and start building real change. The kind that shows up in March, not in the first week of January. The kind that lasts when you're tired. The kind that continues when motivation disappears. The kind that grows even when progress is small. Because here's the truth. It doesn't matter how slow you go, what matters is that you don't stop. And there's one more thing that destroys resolutions. Your fear of failure. Many people fail because they're terrified of failing. So they don't even start fully. They wait for the perfect moment. The perfect energy. The perfect mood. The perfect plan. None of that exists. This year, normalize this. You're going to fail. But failing doesn't mean quitting. Failing doesn't mean you're incapable. Failing means you're learning. Failure doesn't take you away from your resolution. Giving up does. If you fail one day, continue. If you fail 2 days, continue. If you backslide, continue. If you get tired, rest, and continue. This is how real change happens. Not through perfection. Through persistence. So listen carefully. Your new year doesn't depend on how many times you get it right. It depends on how many times you choose to return after getting it wrong. If you understand this, your entire year changes. Let's close this video by talking about the most important thing. What to actually do after hearing all of this. Because listening is easy. Feeling identified is easy. But making a real decision, that's where most people stop. This part is going to be practical, clear, and direct. Because this new year is not about imagining a perfect life. It's about taking simple, concrete, sustainable steps that move you toward the person you want to become. So listen carefully because this is where your real change begins. The first thing you need to understand is that your life isn't going to change overnight. It's going to change the moment you act like someone who refuses to lie to themselves anymore. And that starts today. Not tomorrow. Not Monday. Not next January. Today. From here, I want you to take 3 essential decisions. 3 decisions that can completely transform your year. 3 decisions that create results, not promises. Let's go one by one without filters. First decision, stop making massive lists. Choose one real resolution. Just one. The one that hurts. The one you fear. The one you've avoided. The one that matters the most. The one you know deep down you need. That's your resolution. Not 10. Not 5. 1. If you commit to the right one, it will reshape everything else. Because when you fix the root, the branches organize themselves. You don't need a new life. You need one resolution that actually transforms you. Second decision, accept that you're going to fail. And that's okay. Failing doesn't break a resolution, quitting does. Failing once doesn't matter. Failing twice doesn't matter. Messing up for a week doesn't matter. What destroys your progress is believing that one failure means everything is ruined. Normalize failure this year. Understand it as part of the process. Don't punish yourself for it. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't throw away your progress because you had a bad day. Real change doesn't come from doing everything perfectly. Real change comes from continuing even when you're doing it badly. That's where growth happens. Third decision, take care of your mind before your goal. Because if you're not okay, nothing can be sustained. This is the mistake that destroys most New Year resolutions. People trying to change their life while emotionally falling apart. This year, make decisions that give you mental stability. Sleep. Set boundaries. Declutter your space. Reduce chaos. Stay away from what drains you. Surround yourself with people who don't destroy your energy. Give yourself time. Give yourself rest. Give yourself honesty. Because you cannot build discipline from burnout. You cannot build habits from anxiety. You cannot build consistency from emotional emptiness. Your real resolution begins the moment you take yourself seriously. Not from pressure, but from respect. Now listen closely because this is the core of the ending. Your new year depends on how you get up tomorrow. Not on everything you failed before today. Not on last year's version of you. Not on your past. It depends on the decision you make right now. This moment is a decision. And your entire life can shift in a single moment where you refuse to continue the same way. Because here's something you've probably never been told. You are not obligated to repeat your old story. You are not obligated to stay the same. You are not obligated to keep carrying habits that no longer represent you. You are not obligated to live from guilt, exhaustion, or pressure. You are not obligated to act like the version of yourself you've outgrown. You can begin again. Not because it's a new year, but because you can. Because you're alive. Because you have margin. Because you're not done yet. Because you're not too late. Because you deserve a life that doesn't drain you. And now here's a truth you need to carry with you. Your life won't change when the next January comes. It will change the day you stop postponing your own well-being. That day can be today, if you choose it. Now let's close with what truly matters. What you need to do from here. 1. Choose one real resolution. The honest one. The one that matters. The one that you know you can't ignore anymore. 2. Keep it simple. Not a perfect plan. Not a complicated routine. One daily action. Small but consistent. Something you can do even on your worst days. 3. Accept being in process. You will fail. You will get tired. You will feel unmotivated. But those moments don't define anything. What defines your year is what you do after those moments. 4. Build the right environment. Surround yourself with things and people that support your goals, not sabotage them. Less distraction. Less chaos. Less noise. More clarity. More boundaries. More stability. 5. Rewrite your narrative. The way you talk to yourself will build your future or ruin it. No resolution survives if your internal dialogue destroys you. Speak to yourself like someone you want to see grow. Because you are that person. If this video made you think, subscribe. Not for numbers, but because here you'll find real psychology, real clarity, and real growth. If you want a new year that actually feels different, this is your space. Here we speak honestly. Here growth is slow but real. And now, the final message. Don't close this video without making a decision. Choose your resolution. 1. The real one. And start today. Because the difference between repeating the same year and changing your life is not in January. It's in this moment.